I've been a big fan of the Fallout universe since Fallout 3, which came out when I was 13. I still have fond memories of the first time I encountered a feral ghoul in a dark underground metro station and was so scared I had to turn off the game and come back when my courage returned. Everything about the universe has the cool factor: post-apocalyptic, vintage futuristic setting, many weapons and many enemy types to shoot those weapons at, plus a seemingly never-ending number of locations to explore. While I still regard Fallout New Vegas as one of the best games ever made, and definitely the best Fallout game ever made, my interest in the series began to dwindle with Fallout 4, a game I was so hyped about I rushed to the local game store after work to collect my pre-ordered Super Edition, complete with map, cards and a fancy metal disc case. It began to dwindle because of one main thing: Fallout 4's story. What I loved about New Vegas is that the game plonked you down in a world where the only things you knew about your character were that you were a courier and that you had just been shot in the head. The only motivation your character was preloaded with was a revenge plot. Other than that, you could choose exactly what type of person you wanted your character to be. Also, the revenge plot wasn't too overbearing, and you could just choose that you had forgiven your attempted murderer and move on, which was made even easier by the fact that that character was voiced by Matthew Perry, giving a great performance. Fallout 4, on the other hand, preloaded your character with the motivation of having your wife killed and your son stolen. What's more is your character is fully voiced for the first time, meaning that every other conversation you had, your character would blurt out that you need to find your son, when you as the player had completely forgotten that you were meant to be looking for him in the first place. Even despite the revamped gunplay and cool crafting mechanics of the game, I always felt the main story undermined my enjoyment of the game because I didn't really care for it. Fallout 3 also had a family motivation, with the character meant to be looking for his dad. However, as the character wasn't fully voiced, it didn't feel too intrusive. Maybe preferring a plot based on revenge over familial ties says something about me more than anything though. For me personally though, what I would want from a Fallout game after having played a couple of games in the series is being given as blank a slate as possible for the player character, so you are given the freedom to do and roleplay however you want. An important part of what's sold as a role-playing game, though this just might be my bias from playing Fallout New Vegas. Anyway, from being personally disappointed from Fallout 4, I didn't pre-order Fallout 76 or even have a great intention of buying it early after the game released. Instead, I planned to see how it would be reviewed by the community before I made a decision on buying it, and we all know how that turned out. Getting on to Fallout 76 properly though, it just passed its 4th anniversary, and I actually picked up the game about a year ago for just under £5 online, and this wasn't too big an investment to one day see what the game was like for me. Besides, I had already gotten so many hours of entertainment from the game from watching all the YouTube videos of people bashing it, so I didn't feel too bad about chucking Bethesda a fiver. So over the past couple of weeks I set aside some time to give the game a real go and see if they had turned it into a game worth playing in the past 4 years. In the interest of not rehashing old ground covered by the probable thousands of videos of Fallout 76 on YouTube already, I feel the best way to start would be to just give my verdict on whether Fallout 76 is fun in 2022 and then explain myself. Fallout 76 is very fun, but with some caveats. Now, I played the game purely as a solo player, and as I mentioned earlier, what I love from the Fallout series is being plonked in a world and given the freedom to run around, explore, fight enemies, collect loot, craft, at my pleasure. And Fallout 76 definitely succeeds in giving you this experience. But where it fails to deliver is in the meaningful story that makes you feel like you're having an impact on the world that you're in. And if you know anything about 76 at this point, you know you're meant to follow the Overseer's logs, eventually find some nuclear codes, set off a nuke, and fight a Scorched Beast Queen or something like that. No, I haven't done any of that. I did pick up a few Overseer's logs on my travels, but I mainly chose a direction and went exploring. From the start, the main story doesn't feel like it has much weight, and nothing in the game makes you feel like it's something that you should do despite giving you a quest marker here or there, and it definitely doesn't feel like it has much of an impact on the world you're in. And this is unlike New Vegas, where your choices, whether to join the Legion or the NCR to name one, really feels like it has an impact. And even in Fallout 3 you could choose to permanently blow up Megaton. With this being an always online game, you as a single character can't have a lasting impact on the world, as this would have an impact on the other players within the same world as you. Of course, this is how the game is sold as always online, but it means the game's story or the choices don't have the same weight as the New Vegas story, for example. Further, this kind of extends to every other questline within the game, and if you choose to follow a particular one, you'll likely find yourself distracted by the countless new quests that pop up just by entering a location. You could choose to follow one questline from the start to the finish, but this would take some micromanagement of the quests in your Pip-Boy, and more than likely you'll just end up like me, with a stream of quests flowing from the right side of your screen, not paying much attention to any of them. Though this didn't matter much to me, because like I said, I just wanted to have fun in a Fallout world and enjoy the gameplay loop of exploring, fighting, looting, crafting, etc. But if an impactful story is something you're after, this game might leave you feeling a bit lacking, especially compared to the other Fallout games. While I was playing the game, it ran generally pretty smoothly. I have a decent rig, but nothing crazy. There were still a few glitches here and there, like asset popping, some enemies being a bit unresponsive, and some menu glitches, but nothing game breaking. Like, I was never kicked from the game because of a crash, and load times weren't too bad. Overall, the game felt like a finished product, at least by Bethesda standards. I mean, back when the game came out, the state of the glitches made it seem like it wasn't even 50% complete. It made me feel very glad I had not bought it back then, and I've definitely watched Joseph Anderson's 3-hour epic, The Glitches of 76, a few times to get a good laugh at Bethesda's expense. But if they had got the game to the state it's currently in before releasing, it no doubt would have been reviewed a lot better and saved a nice chunk of their reputation. But today, even though there are still videos being posted about glitches and how to exploit them in the game, it's not too bad or game breaking for the casual player like me. The main part of the game, the gunplay, is good fun. Just to transfer over from Fallout 4, there's a good variety of weapons, exactly what you would expect. Though when you're a new player you will be finding a lot of the same weapons, and if you do find a cool weapon you'll likely be greeted with the fact that it's level gated and you can't use it, another feature of being an always online game. And I remember finding a bunch of cool weapons at around level 15 that were gated to level 50, which seemed a bit too high, but I wanted to explore areas further from the start zone, so maybe that's just my fault. But overall the guns feel and look good when you're using them. Crafting is a huge part of Fallout these days, and 76 is no different. 99% of what you pick up in Appalachia will be junk to turn into armor, weapons, mods, chems, food and other items. It's really quite expansive, though 99% of my time spent crafting was on weapons because that's just what I was interested in. And it was a lot of fun. Most guns have, as standard, upwards of 50 mods to unlock, and to unlock them you can find them in the Wasteland or scrap weapons of the same type. Mostly crafting is good fun, especially turning a basic weapon into something more tricked out and exciting, though there is quite a lot of micromanagement of junk in your inventory and time spent searching for specific junk for the mods you want. Also, I don't know if this is just me, but the menu system for crafting and base building never felt very intuitive. So if that kind of sounds boring to you, you'll probably spend less time crafting than me, and you can just find your guns out in the wild. Moving on to the visuals, the game looks pretty good, with a good variety of locations. The graphics are essentially the same as Fallout 4, but there are now dynamic weather events, and despite the remaining visual glitches, it doesn't look too bad at all. The starting area is lush and green and nice to look at. The mining area has a suitably dusty feel to it, and there's an overworld effect, which means sometimes the air will become toxic and you'll need to put on a gas mask to avoid damage. I enjoyed the more mountainous area, which featured a ski resort, and the humanoid scorched enemies were all decked out in ski outfits. That was a nice touch. And the bottom right area, I don't know if it has a name, but it features some of the more weird and more irradiated looking environments, which were fun to look at and explore. Of course, one of the best things Bethesda does with the visuals is still the visual storytelling that can be seen around the Wasteland, like these two skeletons sat on a couch up high with empty beer bottles, and you get to make up your own story as to what happened with them, and things like this can be found all over the place. Just to address the multiplayer aspect of the game, like I said, I played it as a single player, but I can offer my conjecture on the multiplayer experience. And like anything, 76 will probably be more enjoyable with a good friend or friends. You can chat shit and stroll around the world having a good time with your buddy. However, I imagine you might have to be big Fallout fans to enjoy the experience together. And I mainly say this because of the amount of inventory micromanagement that you probably need to do, like I mentioned for crafting. They've made things a bit easier by having a system where you can loot all the dead enemies in the local area from just one body and scrap or move all junk in your inventory with one button. but some of the more micromanagey aspects of the game don't feel like very sociable activities to do with a friend unless you're both happy to sit there and sort out your inventories in silence. One thing I wanted to try before making my review was the new Pit expansion. I hadn't done any research prior to the expansion, but I was taken in by the cool marketing images. The Pit basically adds semi-linear dungeons to the game with objectives to complete in new enclosed areas away from the main map. You join in a war that's taking place in Pittsburgh and help the side called the Union fight a group of raiders called the Fanatics. The mission I played was an assassination type mission where I had to kill 2 mini-bosses, and at least from my short experience with the expansion, I didn't enjoy it too much, at least as a solo player. I found the enemies didn't seem to scale too well to my level, at least one of the bosses, because it took me ages to kill him, just hiding behind cover and then taking pot shots with a rifle and grenades. So this definitely feels like it's something that would be better and not least easier with a team, and probably being properly kitted out in power armor and having strong weapons. However, one thing I wanted to mention was there seems to be a really annoying system to even get to these dungeons. You have to use a vertibird on top of the Responders HQ at the White Spring Resort from their good guy base. But you're made to gather batteries for the vertibird by doing really menial tasks like donating scrap lead or making a stew, which was just boring. Anyway, I did it once and wasn't blown away by it, but I'm happy to accept I just approached it wrong. There are a couple of aspects of the game I haven't touched on, such as base building, and I'm not going to, though I did see some pretty cool player bases throughout the wasteland. The game is just so big you could spend hundreds of hours exploring everywhere and really getting into every system the game has to offer, but I haven't got the time. However, I did enjoy my limited time playing 76 despite its imperfections. It's technically what I always wanted from a Fallout game. Here's an open world, go have fun. But it does lack that story which gets you really invested in the world and help you remember your experience. And I still remember Fallout New Vegas from 12 years ago, but in 12 years I don't think I'll remember my time spent in Appalachia. For me, Fallout 76 feels like the same experience garnered from watching the 2008 film Rambo, or Rambo 5. If you go into it with your brain switched on and expecting too much of a rich plot and intellectually stimulating content, you'll probably be disappointed. But switch your brain off and let the media take you with what it has to offer, and you'll easily be entertained. In Rambo's case, a no-holds-barred action flick with unrelenting violence and an unnecessarily high body count, and in Fallout 76's case, a pretty fun time exploring a new wasteland filled with tons of exploring, crafting, and yes, violence. In both cases, go into them with the right expectations, and you're sure to have a good time. Both are probably better with friends, but like I can always stick on and enjoy Rambo by myself, so can I probably Fallout 76. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did. Check out my other videos on other games I've reviewed. I feel like this one might be a bit thrown together, and it kinda is, but I really wanted to talk about this game even at a surface level. I'll try and make some more in-depth videos soon, but in the meantime, thanks for watching.